Yo, what's going on, everybody? This is the Black Manga Critic here, and we gonna be talking about that Yu Yu Hakusho greatness. All right, this is why we're here. We here to talk about Yu 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 Hakusho greatness. All right. And I think part of the reason why I want to do this is one, I was just like, I watched like a couple of like Yu Yu Hakusho clips. You know what I mean? When you go through the clips, you reminisce. You remember when you first watched watched through a particular series or read a particular series or whatever the case may be, and you just you get those feelings, that nostalgia, the whatever it is. You know what I mean? It's just dope. Oh, give me one sec. My fiance call me. I'm just gonna shoot her a text. Uh, but look, man, Yu Yu Hakusho is dope. Like, it's too good. It's too good. Uh, you know what I mean? Just dope. I don't know. We're gonna talk about a few things. All right, we're gonna talk about a few things. Probably just kind of starting with oddly enough, we kind of gotta I guess I want to really kind of talk about the sort of end, so to speak, like the kind of like tail end of Yu Yu Hakusho, and why I think certain things just work extremely well. And when you kind of look back to certain like characters and relate the relationships that like Yusuke has with those characters, you understand why like the sort of end of it, not the sort of manga, right? Like well, no, not the manga, but just like the sort of like Three Kings, right? We're gonna kind of stick with that because there's the whole other like spirit world arc with the corruption and everything like that. That Tagashi clearly was like just ill. He was not healthy when he was doing that, so it's kind of a mess. But specifically, just kind of like ending things with the sort of revolution that sort of happens within Demon World, and you know what I mean. And it's just that stuff is like dope to me. But I really want to focus on like Yusuke, what happens to him during that fight, why that fight is so significant for the series as a whole. And I think a lot of people kind of be like, oh, that fight was whack, it wasn't very good, yada yada yada, whatever. And to me, it's one of my favorite fights. Like Yomi versus Yusuke is one of my favorite fights like in the manga. I feel like and it doesn't go over like another fight. You know what I mean? Like Yusuke versus Toguro, Yusuke versus Sensui, and Yusuke versus Yomi. They're all on the same level. Why? For me, because they work in tandem. They do things for the narrative, for the story as a whole. That like each of them needs each other. You know what I mean? For Tagashi to tell what the story that he's trying to tell, for him to get the message across that he's trying to get across, right? You see a similar sort of thing in Legend of Korra, right? Because Korra's kind of similar in the way that like Korra's kind of generally like always kind of sort of reacting to things. There's always some person that kind of comes through and they're like, I'm gonna just end things. I'm gonna change things. I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. And then Corey's like, okay, now I gotta get out. I gotta go get up in the morning. I gotta train. I gotta defeat this person, and this person's wilding. Da da da. And very much so in similar ways, Yusuke is just like he's reacting to things, right? Oftentimes, right, Yusuke's just kind of like chilling. Maybe he goes to school. Maybe you know what I mean. He's fighting with Kuwabara, making jokes at Keiko. You know what I mean? He's just chilling. And then somebody comes through and they just doing the most. Somebody comes through, they're doing the most, and he reacts to that and he's like, okay, now I'm involved. Sometimes he might not even necessarily want to get involved, right? But those people force him to be involved in a way that he was like either he wasn't expecting or he just needs to like beat them or whatever, right? But that sort of relationship, like when it comes to like Toguro, Sensui, Yomi, really, really, really vital to, again, the message that Tagashi is to me, all right, that Tagashi is trying to send through that. And I think one of the sort of biggest things that Tagashi is sort of talking about is like understanding that you do not exist in this world alone. You do not exist in a vacuum. You're not just like, chilling and you know what I mean? And you can ignore people and you can make certain decisions that only affect you and keep moving throughout this world, throughout this space, and everything's gonna be okay. It doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. Like maybe you can if if you never met anybody, you never made any sort of connections or anything like that, and you just decide to like live in a cave for the rest of your days and whatever, right? Maybe that's something, right? Maybe that's the case. But generally, in this space, that's not how things work. It's not. Okay. Very quickly, before I sort of get to the rest of this, I want to check out the chat, see who's here, see what's going on, if anybody's here. I don't feel like so people are watching, so that's cool. It's cool. Just the fact that you're watching is dope. Shouts out to all y'all that are watching right now. But when we get to that, this idea of like connections, of caring about people, about people caring about you, and that idea of like, those connections being vital to not only who you are, right? Not only who you are as a person, but in a general sense, but like being like actively improving upon yourself and doing those and doing the work to continue to improve upon yourself and doing all those things and figuring out who you are, right? Because figuring out who you are and finding out more about who you are, that's like a constant process. You don't ever stop doing that, really. Right? So when we get to Yomi, this is why I'm starting there. I'm starting with Yomi because I think it's really crucial that we start there. When you start with Yusuke versus Yomi, and you see what's happening, and right, and the art, and Tagashi does this really, really clever thing, right, where he sort of has Yusuke, right? Yusuke's chilling. Yusuke is chilling. He's doing the thing. He's starting revolutions, right? You know what I mean? He's doing his thing. He's moving. He's making moves. He's talking with people. He's just, he's messing around. He's doing that stuff, right? He's training. He's getting stronger and stronger, right? And in some ways, just so that like he can stand against like certain people, right? And he has to, otherwise like they're gonna kill him, right? So that's sort of like, right, and in a very general sense, like a lot of the basis of sort of just what's going on in a general sense, right? Because there's so much more. There's so much more. We talk about the relationships between like Makoto and Hiei, Kurama and Yomi. Like there's so many things going on. Ryzen and his sort of narrative. There are a lot of things sort of going on, right? And the interconnections between all of them, right? Interconnections between all of them, right? So when we get to you, right? So we're reading that and we're like, yo, there's so much going on. Yusuke is like, he's doing the thing. Like he's kind of grown up a bit in a certain way. Like he's making these certain moves, right? Like he's reacting, but he's also like made a decision, right? He's made a decision to say like, yo, like this is what we're gonna do. All right. And everybody's sort of like, wow, Yusuke, wow, like Yusuke's really like he's coming through. Whoa, we following him. This is the leader right here. We in here. And then we get to the battle. And then we get to Yusuke versus Yomi. And in the midst of the battle, really close to like sort of the beginnings of it, right? Yusuke is like, what am I doing? And that's when you're just like, yo, Tagashi on point. Tagashi is doing just the Lord's work. He's just doing the greatness. He's just doing whatever entities out there, whatever it is, like he's doing that. He's doing the work. Right? Because the last thing that you expect in that battle, right, when it's Yusuke versus Yomi, is for Yusuke to question why he's fighting. You don't expect that. I don't know anybody that was reading or watching Yusuke versus Yomi and expected Yusuke to be like, I don't know what I'm fighting for. I don't know, right? Because like again, the whole narrative is sort of set up. Again, it's very clever. It's very well done, right? In a way where we're like, yo, there's purpose. Yusuke has a purpose. He's doing these things. He's trying to help these people out, blah, blah, blah. Right? Excuse me. Right? Just gonna have a little bit of snap. Right? And again, so when we get to the battle, we're just expecting Yusuke to be like, I'm fighting because you know, these people are my friends and blah 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 and everything like that, right? But in the midst of battle, Yusuke has no clue, not only like why he's fighting, but like initially why he doesn't feel anything from this particular fight, why fighting Yomi isn't doing anything for him. And again, this is very, very important. Okay, obviously, I think if anybody is reading or watching that like sort of saw, yes, this is an important point. But again, the way that Togashi presents it, it's just like this curveball. This is curveball. You have no ideas coming, and when it comes, it forces you to question how you're reading the narrative, how you're reading that arc, and how you're reading Yu Yu Hakusho as a whole. Really, when you're starting from Toguro, right? Because when we get to that, when we get to the Toguro stuff, that's when the ball really kind of, to me, starts rolling. And we really sort of delve deep into sort of Yusuke's growth, right, as a person and moving forward and doing all those things, right, in big ways, in larger sort of ways than sort of prior to that. We have the Saint Beast and, you know, and Hiei and Kurama and those, like, you know, sort of battles, right, and in way back to the beginning of the manga where he's going through those trials and everything like that, just to, you know, come back to life, right? So when we get that, to me, that's like phenomenal, because I, as a reader, have to think, why does this fight, like, why does this fight matter to me? Why am I as a reader, why am I invested in this particular fight? Why am I invested in Yusuke versus Yomi? How come I'm not invested in the other fights that are going on? Right, because because those other fights are distinct. They're very important, right? Because this entire sort of tournament and everything that's going on, right? The winner of this tournament is going to be the leader of the demon world. So yes, obviously Yomi is an important figure because he's one of the three strongest figures. But Makuro is also one of the three strongest figures, right, in Demon World. So her battle is, to me, just as important as Yomi's, right? Her battle with the woman, I can't remember her name, but I'm gonna look it up eventually. Or somebody could look that up for me. But that's also an important battle, right? So again, we have to sort of think, well, why are we placing like Yomi versus Yusuke in this place? Obviously, it's right because yes, Yusuke is a protagonist, but that's something that we do, right? As readers, we place more importance on particular things based on sort of how they're presented to us and based on how certain characters have been presented to us, right? Yusuke is a protagonist. Yomi supposedly is sort of main antagonist, but it's like, really, like, we should be concerned about how those other battles end up. Who's going to win that battle? Who's going to end up becoming the leader, right? And maybe even more importantly, we have to realize that as we've been reading this particular arc, and as we've been following Yusuke through Demon World, and Yusuke sort of finding out more about himself and everything like that, which is valid, right? Which is important, and that stuff has to happen. But we've completely forgotten about everybody else in Human World. We've completely forgotten about Keiko. We've completely forgotten about Kubara. At least I did when I was watching that arc. I was not thinking about Kurabara. I was definitely not thinking about Keiko at all. And that's really crucial because, again, Yusuke is just like, right, very much so a sort of representation of, just how we just read things, what we deem to be important at a given particular point in time. You know what I mean? Yomi is not like super vital. I don't know how many. I wouldn't even say that. Now I can say that, right, out of it and sort of reflecting. Yomi is important in a certain sense, right, in terms of like sort of plot progression and as a figure within Demon World, right? Like, I can understand that to an extent, right? But when it comes to Yusuke as a character, in terms of Yusuke's growth, in terms of Yusuke's, again, like, understanding his sort of place in this like non-vacuum, you know what I mean? Where there's like just dozens of people that care about about Yusuke, that know Yusuke, that either depend on him or are depending on him at that particular moment, or are waiting for him, right, so that they can move on with their lives, right? It's interesting because it almost seems like Yusuke has even forgotten about Keiko, which is wild, right? That's like the love of his life. But what we sort of seen is that at some level Yusuke has just like put Keiko like on hold, right? And again, Yome is not like, and again, like Yome is in some ways, you know, kind of important to Yusuke's growth, but even more important to Yusuke's growth is Keiko. You know, and what's really interesting here is that, like, again, he can't even go back to Keiko because he hasn't even figured out this stuff that's going on in the here and now. He doesn't even know why he's fighting. How are you someone, right, Yusuke, that in a lot of ways is defined by your love of battle, as your love of fighting and all of that, and you don't even know why you're fighting a particular individual in front of you. You're not even sure why you're still fighting. How are you going to go back? How are you going to go back to your significant other, to the love of your life? How are you going to do that when you haven't even figured that stuff out yet, right? It's very much so sort of representative of, right? They're like people out there, tons of people out here that do that, right? They will, you know, come through with like, and like everyone sort of comes in with baggage, right? In a relationship, everyone does. But there are people who will just, you know, they will not have figured out or dealt with whatever it is that they need to deal with before they get into like a particular relationship, and they come in with that baggage, right? And Yusuke is like, whoa, like I'm not gonna put that on Keiko, but also like I've almost like forgotten about Keiko. I've focused on this stuff that is sort of important to me, but not really, because the whole point for me coming here is to learn a bit about like who I am as a demon, blah blah blah, and then go back to the human world and be with Keiko and grow old with her and do all those things. And so that battle, like again, when Togashi throws that curveball, it's like, good job, Togashi, because he not only jolts, like, right, it's like Yusuke is sort of jolted out of like this, just, you know, just kind of absurd like funk that he's in within the battle, right? And I say absurd because it's like, how do you forget about Keiko, and how do you forget about like that particular reason for why you're there in the first place, and why and the fact that you need to go back, and right, he jolts us, the reader, out of like our just like sort of complacency, right? We're just, some of us are just watching Yusuke versus Yome and we're like, yeah, these guys are throwing hands. But again, right, battles are really important because like there needs to be right, like not only does it need to be sort of like an underlying sort of reason for those why those battles are being fought, but it's like, are those reasons important to the protagonist? Do they particularly matter to the protagonist who is fighting that battle? And Yusuke versus Yome is sort of like, Yusuke has no real plans to stay in the demon world forever, right? So what happens when it comes to sort of like the political landscape of demon world is not nearly as important to Yusuke as Keiko is. So when he's fighting Yome, it's like, why am I fighting this guy? Right? Why am I fighting this guy? Why, or not even so much why am I fighting this guy, but it's almost like, can I enjoy this fight? What are the reasons? You know, and again, it's just really, really, really solid work by Togashi. One thing I also want to sort of get to, right, and sort of connecting that stuff, right? What's happening with Yusuke versus Yome is like when we sort of backtrack, right? And Yusuke says this, right? Yusuke just like kind of says this like mentally. He's like, when I fought Toguro and when I fought Sensui, these two individuals, like clearly, right? Very clearly, like Sensui and Toguro like used Yusuke. They used him. That's what was going on there, right? Like they approached Yusuke and they were like, boy, I'm gonna use you to figure out like how my life should end. Right. And to bring value to the decisions that I've made throughout my life. Right. That's Yusuke's role for them. Right. And so again, right, in those things, right, Yusuke feels right, like one, not only that like he has to sort of right, one, he has to defeat these people because these people are just gonna like kill everybody that he cares about, right? And in that way he understands that like he's fighting for those other people, but he's still very much so he's still very much so being used by these individuals, you know. And I think Yomi is sort of right again, and Yomi sort of the first time, and Yusuke is very clear about this, right? Yomi is sort of the first time, in terms of like a big sort of like person who he has to fight that sort of threatens, you know, sort of the destruction of like the human world or whatever, you know, and he's like, right, and Yusuke sort of like, yeah, but Yomi's not forcing Yusuke to fight. You know what I mean? Yomi's not forcing Yusuke to fight to figure out who he is. Right? And those two battles with Yusuke versus Toguro, Yusuke versus Sensui, those battles are obviously like battles about like solidifying identities, right? When it comes to certain characters, right? In particular, Toguro and Sensui. Right. With Toguro, that battle is on his side. That battle is very much so about validating his decision to turn from a human into a demon, to seek absolute strength, right, and to be able to utilize that absolute strength against a worthy adversary, right, and to die in battle eventually, right? On top of all these sort of other things, right? Like, right, because like if he doesn't do that, if he doesn't take that particular path, then the decision that he's made to leave Genkai, to leave, you know, everyone that he's cared about behind, is ridiculous, right? It seems ridiculous, and in some ways, right, Toguro kind of realizes that like he's made like a mistake or whatever, but again, once Toguro realizes that he's made a mistake, but he's running away from that mistake, right? Yusuke says that outright. He's running away from that mistake. So that's why Toguro has to see that to the end. He has to battle Yusuke. He has to utilize Yusuke. He has to make sure that Yusuke is strong enough to kill him, right? To get to that point, and then he can deal with his penance, right? In Spirit World. Right, Sensui, there's so many things going on there, but again, Sensui is utilizing Yusuke to figure out, right, and in some ways, like Sensui, kind of realizes that he Yusuke is one kind of in his way, but then what we notice is that like one, he's in his way, but he also realizes that, right, well, okay, two things. One, Sensui initially sort of utilizes Yusuke to say, all right, I was a spirit detective. You are now a spirit detective. I need to see how you'll be able to deal with certain situations. And if those reactions are different than how I sort of reacted, and if my existence is just this like blight, right? And also, Sensui is just trying to figure things out. This is why, you know, obviously, right, the split personality disorder and all, and you know, seeking to like remove the sort of barrier between the human world and the demon world, right? He's trying to figure out what certain things like mean, and it's just very like philosophical in certain ways. But when it comes to, right, once Yusuke, right, becomes like Mazaku, right? And it's revealed that like, oh, he's actually got some, you know, demon sort of background and ancestry and everything like that. Then Sensui, right? Then Sensui kind of is like, oh, Yusuke really, really becomes useful now in a different way, right? Yusuke doubly, right? He doubly acts as sort of like, okay, initially it's just like, okay, Yusuke is a spirit detective, and Sensui was a spirit detective, and in some ways, Sensui is sort of seeing himself in Yusuke in different ways, and he's sort of testing Yusuke to see how he's going to deal with certain situations and what sort of choices he's going to make, right? And when Yusuke's demon ancestry is revealed, then Sensui is able to be like, oh, now I can really sort of define who I am as a person, as this just, you know, individual who just continuously kill demons and yada, 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 and all these different things, right? And it's important because Yusuke represents, right? Yusuke in a lot of ways represents, I would sort of say like the second demon, right? The second sort of demon entity that Sensui has met and in some ways like kind of befriended, you know what I mean? Like this is one thing that, you know, when it comes to these sort of Yusuke like battles with enemies, right? Hiei, Kurama, Toguro, Sensui, like Yomi, even, right? Like these people, like they find that they like Yusuke. They find that, you know, there's a sort of connection there, a friendly connection. You know, it's weird, but it's there. All right. So when Yusuke does this demon stuff, all of a sudden it's like, oh, now I can, you know, battle a demon in this totally different way. Before he'd just be like, right, before he met Itsuki, right, he'd just be like, I'm making light work of demons. That's what I do. I kill demons. Demons are bad. That's it. Black and white, end of story, right? And this battle with Yusuke is just like, right, again, he's just like, wow, like this is the way I need to end my life. This is the way I need to end this story. I need to see this through. I need to like it's again, it's the culmination of Sensui realizing that, like, again, things aren't black and white. There are demons with that, right? There are sentient demons that aren't all about killing humans and eating them and using them as a food supply and all that, right? It's different. So there's a lot of stuff kind of going on there. But I don't know. There's just a lot. There's a lot. There's a lot. Like those two use Yusuke. Yomi doesn't really use Yusuke. Right? And so because he's in this like just battle that seems sort of massive in the same way that his battles with Sensui and Toguro seemed, right? When he realizes that Yomi isn't using him in that way and that he doesn't have that sort of connection with Yomi, it's like, oh, this is different. I'm like, where's the importance for me, for myself? I don't understand. Why am I here? Right? What am I doing? You know, and it's such a question, right? It's such a profound like realization on Yusuke's part. Just right again, this is Yusuke growing up. This is Yusuke realizing that this like certain figures in his life were, you know, at once vital to his growth, but also inadvertently stunted it as well, right? Because he's expecting a certain type of he expects a certain type of battle. He expects a certain type of connection with this person that with Yomi. And in one sense, he can't really get it because one, Yomi already has a son. Yomi already has someone that like in a lot of ways, Toguro and Sensui sort of view Yusuke as like, again, this sort of like this child, this like person that they see and is similar to them in different ways, you know? And it's just like very creepy, unhealthy, like father-son relationship that you see both in Yusuke versus Toguro, but Yusuke versus Sensui. And when I say versus, I just mean like their relationship, because their relationship very much was like clashes. But Yomi is not the person, right? Yomi is not a combatant that he's going to find that relationship in. And when he doesn't, it jolts Yusuke, because it's like, this is different. I have to come into this battle with my own reasons to fight that aren't connected to the person across from me. That's like, you know what I mean? That's like stuff that like you realize, right? When like maturity, growth, right? When you, right, it's not only about the people that care about you, right? That's clearly like sort of vital, but it's like that has to be enough. You know what I mean? Like that has to be enough. Period. Like it has to be enough, period. It has to be enough for you to be like, I care about this person, I care about these people that impact my life and whose lives I impact. And like Yusei has to realize that, because every time he's been in a battle, he's just been like, all right, I gotta fight, and I'm kind of enjoying this battle, but I also gotta fight. And you know, it takes Yusuke forever to get to the place in a battle where he's like, oh snap, like these people really will die if I don't like get it together. You know what I mean? And that's fine, and that's a different sort of way, right? But here, not only, right, it's about like, yes, I care about these people, but it's not. It's different. It's not. It's the reason like that he's fighting isn't like, oh, you know, these people might die or something like that or whatever. If I don't like win this battle or something, you know, it's not even that. It's like he will lose his connection to these people in a certain way, right? Like he can't face Keiko, right, until he's dealt with all this stuff, until he's dealt with this growth that he has to work through, until he's resolved this issue at hand. And so once he figures out that the reason he's fighting this battle is to finish the battle, is to beat this man, so that obviously, like, you know, things can change and then he can go home, right? Once he realizes that it's like, I can't go back to Keiko until I finish this up. Then it's like, oh, now I got the fire. Now I got the spirit, right? It's like the people that you care about are vital in different ways. It's not always about these people might die, so I'm gonna fight with them in mind. It's like these people just matter. You know what I mean? They just do. They just matter. I care about them. You know, I can't lose here. I can't die here. I can't leave these things unresolved, because if I leave these things unresolved, or worse, I die here, these other people will be affected. Period. And this is the sort of thing that, like, I think makes Yu Yu Hakusho so great, is that oftentimes when you see shonen, right, it's shonen sort of manga, and particularly battle shonen manga, right? The reason is sort of always, world's gonna be destroyed, you gotta win this battle. But Yu Yu Hakusho just does this really beautiful thing where it's like, Yusuke is fighting this battle because he wants to go home. He just wants to go home and see see Keiko, right? And also, like, he needs to resolve this issue once and for all, and then he wants to go home. In some ways, Yusuke is kind of like, yeah, you know, this battle is important, but more important to Yusuke is like, I need to be able to see Keiko. I need to finish this up so I can go home and see Keiko. And it's such a simple reason. It's such a simple reason that doesn't have these like the stakes are different. There's a different feel to the stakes, right? Usually, again, the stakes in battle shonen are like, I gotta I gotta save the world. I gotta stop this villain, otherwise this villain's gonna destroy everything. You know, or I gotta fight, otherwise this person's going to kill me, and that's important because if this person kills me, then the world will be destroyed. You know what I mean? It always sort of comes back to that when it comes to battle shonen. And with this isn't really about like the destruction of the world. It's such a really neat way to end things, right? So that Togashi decided to end things in this way, right? And like in a certain way, right? With like in that sort of arc, right? And that sort of part of the story. And I think that's where Togashi really wanted to end it, but you know, it is what it is. But to end it with just like the protagonist saying that he wants to win and he needs to end this battle to just go home and to be with his girl. That's all. You know? And when I say that's all, it's like it seems so insignificant when you put it next to something initially. But again, when you think about it and when you realize how important like maybe your significant other is to you, then you understand. Then you're like, oh, I see what Takashi's sort of saying here. It's like the people that you care about, they matter. They matter in the same way that like the destruction of the world matters in like other battle shonen manga, and in some ways like Yu Yu Hakusho too. But Togashi is really is but what's really key is that again, Togashi consistently does that, right? Every sort of battle always emphasizes the fact that Yusuke has to be more quick to realize how much he cares about the people around him. And it just continues, like, right? Yusuke just continues to have those realizations throughout every escalating battle, right? Throughout every battle, as the battles escalate throughout Yu Yu Hakusho. So when we get to the end, Yusuke is like, I have to figure that out for myself, right? Yomi's not going to do that for him. Togoro's not, right? Togoro's not going to do that for him. Sensui's not going to do that for him. Togoro and Sensui are dead. They're dead. They're gone. They can't do that for him. They can't help him realize that stuff. So when Yomi's in front of him, Yomi's not going to help him realize that he cares about that, like about the people that care about him and everything like that, because Yomi's not thinking about that at all. Yomi isn't concerned about the people that Yusuke cares about in any capacity. So when Yusuke is fighting, it's like, he's having a hard time because people have done that work for him in a lot of ways, right? He had to sort of figure it out instinctively, but here in that battle between, right, with Yusuke and Yomi, he has to figure that out for himself. He has to do that work. Right? And Yomi, right? And what's really great is that it's very clear that Yomi's punches and his demon energy and all those things, they're not helping Yusuke figure that stuff out at all. You know what I mean? Yusuke has to think. He has to be an adult. He has to go through that work. He has to go through that process. He has to remember. He has to do all that stuff. It's really vital for Yusuke's growth as a person. That battle, I think, more than any other in Yu Yu Hakusho, is crucial for Yusuke's growth as a person, for his maturity. All right. So that was like kind of long-winded, and I said a lot, but I think, Yusuke versus Yomi is like one of the most important battles, if not the most important battle for Yusuke's growth as a person, and in terms of maturing, in terms of becoming an adult. You know. And one thing some of the things that I really, really love. I'm gonna keep talking about Yu Yu Hakusho. Gonna move on. All right. Another thing that I really, really love about about Yu Yu Hakusho is just character construction. We could talk about character construction all day. But one thing I kind of really want to focus on is like there's a reason why people love just these core groups of people, right? They love Hiei, they love Kurama, they love Kuwabara, they love Yusuke. And I think one thing that I like about one thing that I really appreciate is Tagashi doesn't forget about um, the fact that these are people, right? As opposed to sort of as opposed to sort of like characters, because characters don't have to grow, right? They don't have to grow. You could have a character, right? And they could just keep doing ridiculous things within whatever story they're in, right? And they could do that till the end of time, and it is what it is, right? Like I'm like let's say maybe like you think of like a sitcom, right? Peter Griffin's not really gonna have character like growth, not really. Homer Simpson won't, not really. You know what I mean? Certain characters will generally stay the way that they are, and they'll always be that, and there won't be any real sort of growth because like that growth will sort of like reset or whatever, right? When it comes to like that sort of sitcom. Even when it comes to like certain stories, certain characters will always be who they are because that's just what the story demands from them. You know, like you see that often maybe like in certain cartoons, you know. But again, Tagashi really he just realizes like my characters are people. And people grow, people change, people learn, people have goals, people work towards those goals, and then maybe they have new goals and they work towards achieving those new goals, right? And when we look at sort of someone like Kuwabara, it like or even sort of Keiko, right? Like one reason why I think like Keiko is really important to me in terms of Yu Yu Hakusho is because in one sense, Keiko was very much so just like I am waiting for Yusuke, and Keiko would probably wait forever for Yusuke if he knew he was alive. You know, I truly believe like Keiko would probably wait she'd probably wait forever for Yusuke. Like if she knew that like Yusuke is alive, he's planning to come back. Like I think she would, because like I think that's just kind of like who she is, you know. But it doesn't stop her from getting to like a dope a dope school. It doesn't stop her from studying. It doesn't stop her from hanging out with friends. It doesn't stop her from doing those particular things. You know, she keeps it moving, right? She's not gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna be left back because Yusuke's not here. Oh, I'm gonna stop talking to my friends because Yusuke's not here. Oh, I'm gonna let myself like rot from the inside out because Yusuke is not here. That's not what Keiko does. She grows, right? And I think in a lot of ways, like right when you see the end of sort of like Yu Yu Hakusho, and Keiko's just like, yo, Yusuke, I've been growing. I've been experiencing things. You haven't been here to experience those things with me, and I'm upset. You know what I mean? It's different. It's different. And also Keiko's holding Yusuke accountable. You know what I mean? She holds Yusuke accountable. She's like, yo, you ghosted. I haven't heard from you in how long? I'm like, nah. You better come through right now or it's a wrap. Or it's over. And right, and you obviously, right, like Yusuke sort of promised Keiko this thing. So Keiko's right. Keiko's like right. She waits for like that time, and then after that time is up, Keiko's like, "Yo, I waited for that time. That time is up. Bye." But again, I truly believe like Keiko probably would have waited like for much longer than that. But again, Keiko's not messing around. She's not playing no games. She's like, "Yo, you made this particular promise. You said this was gonna happen. I'm holding you to that. I'm holding you to that because you, as a person, you got to be able to do that. That's something you got to be able to do. If you can't do that, I'm out you." Right? And Yusuke is like, "Yo, I like right." And in some ways, right, when Yusuke is like, "I gotta resolve this," right, and get back to Keiko. Yusuke is also like, "Yo, I gotta resolve this in time." I gotta resolve this in time. Because Yusuke knows what Keiko is about. Yusuke knows Keiko will be like, broke the promise, Yusuke. I'm out ya. So Yusuke gotta hurry it up. You gotta hurry it up, get back to the human world, see Keiko. Okay. So in one sense, you know, right? Like you don't like, again, I'll never say like Keiko and Yusuke are goals because they're not relationship goals. I'm just sort of saying this is what like the sort of relationship is between them, right? But I would never say like I would never say Keiko and Yusuke are relationship goals, right? One, because there's a way in which like I would never like make like I never like make like my fiance wait, you know, to get married or to be together or whatever. I wouldn't do that. That's ridiculous. Right? He'd be like, all right, babe, I'm gonna be back in 3 years. What? But what? You know what I mean? Like this is like they're not relationship goals, but I understand like the relationship and I get why like, you know, their particular relationship works in within the confines of Yu Yu Hakusho. Right? But of course you also have to understand like they should not be relationship goals in this world, in this realm and whatever. You know? I don't think so. So there's that. And again, Keiko is important. If Keiko is important for Yusuke's growth. All right. Because he's the one person that because she's the one person that he just without a shadow of doubt cares about and works to be better for. Right? Yusuke works to be better for Keiko, I think. Right? To be more right, to find out more about who he is, to do all the things, because he has to be able to go back to Keiko knowing these things. He can't put that on Keiko. He can't be like, all right, Keiko, I'm going to make you wait again in the next 3 years. No. Like, right, Keiko's like, Yusuke, you better go work on that, and then you better come back when you're done. That's why Keiko works for Yusuke. Right? They're a good fit in that way. Also because, you know, Keiko's willing to wait, which is all right. And then there's, you know, Kuwabara. Kuwabara is just like, Kuwabara is like my guy. I love Kuwabara. Right? Kuwabara is one of those people that like, you, right? When you see like certain like character traits, like there are certain character traits that Kuwabara has, and you just want those traits. You just want those traits. Like for me, like that's stuff that I love. Like his ability to just like pick up a kitty and just be like, oh, this is a cute kitty. I'm gonna take care of it. I'm gonna like that's the kind of person you should be. Like you should be able to like express those kinds of emotions. You should be able to be like, hey, like I think this thing is cute or adorable or whatever, publicly, and not like fear. Like people have been like, oh, you know. You should very much care about the people around you. And again, Kuwabara is someone that just like consistently gets stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger because he cares about the people around him. He does. And I think again, like Kuwabara is someone that I think in a lot of ways, it's kind of like always sort of parallel to Yusuke because Kuwabara always knows that. Kuwabara always knows that the people around him are important and that he cares about them and that he works to make sure that they're safe and that he can see them every day and interact with them every day. Kuwabara knows that from jump. And that's one of the reasons why Kuwabara is such a like lovable sort of character. And why he's always one of the few that are constantly telling Yusuke, like, yo, nah, son. You can't treat other people in the ways that you've been treating them. You got to be better than the ways you've been. You got to be better than that. Kuwabara is always getting on Yusuke about that. And that's why Kuwabara is such a great character. Right? Because he's not like, well, you know, maybe you can. Nah, he's like, nah, Yusuke, this ain't it. Time after time after time again. He's like, Yusuke, this ain't it. You got these people worried about you. You doing this stuff. You playing around, right? You got to be better. But at the same time, right? At the same time, Kuwabara also understands Yusuke and knows that he wouldn't like he would never tell Yusuke, yo, stop fighting, stop looking for like a battle, stop trying to get stronger. You never tell him that because he understands that that's integral to who Yusuke is as a person. That's something that Yusuke finds pleasure in, right? Fighting, combatants, growing, getting stronger, all that stuff. So even though Kuwabara is very right, knows when to be like, Yusuke, this ain't it. Stop messing around. You gotta come on, right? And right, there are other times where Kuwabara is like, yo, look, Yusuke's having fun right now, and this is the point. This is a place where it's fine. He can have fun and it's cool because Kuwabara just kind of knows like, yeah, Yusuke will pull us out. Yusuke's got this. We good. You know, so Kuwabara is just like a dope character because again, Kuwabara is the type of person that not wholly, but in some ways, like for me, like I kind of strive to be, right? Kuwabara is great at, right? He's got great spirit awareness. He's got great awareness, period. So he can sort of read people. He can kind of understand why certain people are doing things that they do, but particularly his friends, right? The people that he cares about, you know? And that's a skill that like I think all people should have, right? They have empathy, caring about people, knowing when to encourage the things that they're doing and knowing when to discourage the things that they're doing. Kuwabara is just a dope character. He's a great person, right? I think what's really interesting to me is when I think about this stuff and when I think about characters like Kuwabara, and what's sort of stunning to me is just how much people don't like, they don't grow, like they like people will watch Kuwabara as a character and be like, yo, Kuwabara's such a dope character, I love him, blah, blah, blah. And yet they will move through this world and just be trash people. They will watch Yusuke grow and grow and grow and learn certain things, and at the end of the near the end of the narrative, near the tail end of the narrative, right, of the story, and they will still be utter garbage. They would not care about the people around them. They'll treat everyone else around them like dirt. They'll do all these different things, and I'm like, how do you walk away from these stories and still treat other people like trash? How do you, like, you know what I mean? Like these are things that like are really important to me. Again, when any mangaka, right, and not just Yu Yu Hakusho, but any sort of manga, when you see or anime, when you see characters like these, they're telling you like, yo, like maybe, you know, right, like these manga are sort of telling you like, yo, maybe you should try caring about people. Maybe you should try being more empathetic. Maybe you should try, you know, getting drive, you know, be sort of self-perpetuating in a certain way. You know what I mean? Again, at the end, Yusuke very much, right, like this one of the biggest lessons that Togashi is pushing is you realize that you care about people and use that realization to push yourself. That might be one big reason, but you should be able to sort of just like, you should be able to push yourself. Like other people should not have to tell you, oh, you gotta go for that job, or you gotta do this thing, or you gotta do that thing, or whatever. You know what I mean? One second. And people, you know, it's like you see that all the time. That's kind of the thing for me. Like I see, you know, I always think about these things whenever I'm reading something, whenever I'm like pulling from something. I'm always like, what am I supposed to take from this? You know what I mean? What am I supposed to take from this? How is Yusuke's growth informing my own growth? How is Kuwabara's growth informing my own? How's Hiei's, Keiko's, whomever, Koenma? How do these people inform my own growth? And I think that's really important. One thing that I also note is like, and this is for me, it's like I like if you enjoy something, no, you enjoy it, like you enjoy it in a certain way, like to an extent, right? Like to an extent, right? If you enjoy certain things, you've been doing those things. But I think what's really interesting is like I want to see more like discussions about how these manga, especially shonen manga, because shonen manga, I think in a lot of ways, is sort of like, yo, it's trying to teach like, you know, kids and adults to an extent, right? Like how to be good people. How do you implement the things like the traits that certain characters have into your own life? Do you do that? Do you actively make those attempts? If you do, phenomenal, great. Shout out to you. And if you don't, why not? You know? I think one thing, like that's why, like for me, like, you know, there's certain you know, clips and videos and stuff like that from certain anime, and there are certain manga that I'll read over and stuff like that, like consistently, because they impart such like important ideas and sort of like dictums to live by, you know, and I always just kind of remind myself of those things, you know, like when Yusuke, buddy. Sorry, one of my cats is not supposed to be in the kitchen. I will be right back. Hey, hold on. I'll be right back. Yo! Get out of there. Oh, buddy. But yeah, sorry, I'm back. My cat's being ridiculous. You know what it is. But, you know, what's my thought? I don't remember what I was talking about. But like, y'all know what I'm talking about. I think generally, it's like growth. Like reading certain that's what I was thinking about. When so back to Yu Yu Hakusho, and I'm gonna end the stream in a little bit, but like after this, I think after this point, because I think what I'm gonna do in the future is like pick like certain points about Yu Yu Hakusho to talk about in like live streams, and if people want to join, they can, and then we'll do it that way. But like when Yusuke is taking in the spirit orb, right? Genkai spirit orb, and I think the anime just does a better job with this than the manga, because there's certain things that like aren't there and that are there in the anime, and it just comes together to form this really dope moment. And again, caring about people is important in a very like real way. You know what I mean? Sometimes Battle Shonen would just be like, yes, friendship is important, and I'm like, yeah, I hope so, right? But like again, what Yu Yu Hakusho does, right, is in the anime, is Tagashi just breaks down like these ideas of what it means to care about other people. And on one level, it's like you got to care about yourself. You got to care about yourself. You know? And you have to like you have to work on yourself. You have to grow. You have to get stronger. You have to, you know, be better, whatever, right? Because when you are, right, when you're like sort of hurting yourself and when you're doing all these things, you hurt other people because those people care about you and they feel a way, right? And they feel a certain way when you harm yourself, when you do certain things, right? When you're hurt, when you're not feeling, right? You know what I mean? Again, you do not live in this vacuum. You're not in this vacuum. So when Yusuke, and I'm talking about the anime, right? So when Yusuke is just like working through this pain. It's very like it's very much about himself, right? It's just like I'm gonna beat this. I'm gonna beat, this orb. I'm gonna be stronger. Me, right? And that's not, and it's helping him, but it's not really helping him, right? Because he's just dying. He's just slowly dying at this point, right? And it's the sort of question is like, I honestly believe, right? Like if like, buddy, come on. Sorry, one of my cats is being ridiculous. I gotta feed them. Oh. All right, but when, right, like I firmly believe that, like, if, and this is the anime, like if Pooh didn't show up, Yusuke probably would have died. Or maybe it would have taken him much longer, right, to figure out, like, hey, I got to do this because there are people that care about me. And, like, if I die, those people are affected. And I'm also dead. That's not good, right? So Yusuke is like, oh, sorry, right? He gave up. He was like, it's over. I can't do it, right? That's why, like, I firmly believe that he wouldn't have. Either it would have taken way longer and to figure out what would help him beat this, absorb the spirit orb, or he dead. And so when Pooh comes through, right, this is just such great work on Tagashi's part, because Pooh is, right, this is like good figurative language, right, and good metaphor, right, and good like symbolism and all these things, happening within that scene. When Pooh comes through and Pooh gives him water, right? Pooh again is connected to Yusuke. Pooh figuratively, right, represents Yusuke, or at least the part of Yusuke that, like, we don't see because of the rough exterior and all that other stuff, right? The kind, caring, giving, like, part of Yusuke that we see like early on in the series, especially in the manga, right, when he's helping these people, when he's going through this trial so that he can come back to life, right? And Pooh helps Yusuke, and he's like, oh, and he's just watching like Pooh, and he's like, man, like, this guy's trying. He like, right, he sees that Pooh, one Pooh is still trying, and in some ways it's like, so why am I not trying? And it just makes him that much sadder, because it's like, yo, like, I've already given up. But in some ways, it's also like a part of, right, maybe Yusuke that hasn't, but he has to figure out, like, how to sort of keep pushing, how to keep going. So when Pooh is in trouble, right, and Pooh is about to die, in one sense, it's like Yusuke realizes multiple things at that time, right? In one sense, he's like, I'm about to die, because, right, like, in a figurative sense, right, because Pooh represents Yusuke, and Pooh is about to get crushed, right, and Yusuke is about to die because the spirit orb is going to literally eat him, like take him out from the inside out. It's going to rip him to shreds. And in another sense, right, both literally and figuratively, Pooh represents Yusuke's need to always sort of keep in mind that the people around him matter to him greatly. They're dear to him. That should always be at the forefront of his thinking, always. So when Pooh comes through, all of a sudden Yusuke is like, oh, this is why I gotta absorb the spirit orb. Before that, he's just like, I want to beat this thing. It's a very immature thing that's happening with Yusuke, right? He's just like, I want to beat this thing. I'm putting it back in. Rawr! But then, again, Yusuke has to grow a bit, and he has to keep these things in mind. And Yu Yu Hakusho, at its core, is always about Yusuke keeping that fact at the forefront of his mind. It's important, and he can't forget it. Because when he forgets it, things don't end well. Right? When Yusuke forgets about the people that he cares about, and he gets a bit selfish in a certain way, right? Because it's like, we understand that he loves fighting, and that's important, and that's cool. But when Yusuke forgets about the people that he cares about, and he gets a bit too selfish, and he's like, I'm gonna do things my way, blah blah blah, and it doesn't really end well for him. But when he keeps it at the forefront of his mind and he remembers that stuff and he understands that these people are what give him his actual strength and will keep him going and will push him to greater heights, then it's like, oh, okay, we in here. We in here. You know, so again, like Yu Yu Hakusho does this from the jump. And Tagashi just gives these different representations of that in just dope ways. You know, so for me, like, it's always these little things that, well, I wouldn't even call them little because they're pretty big things within a narrative that Tagashi does to just push this very simple sort of like idea. But it's an idea that I think a lot of us, like, we just be forgetting. We just be like, man, you know what? Whatever to the people around me. I gotta focus on me. That's it. That's all that matters. Blah blah blah. I'm like, you're gonna have a hard time. Like, you're gonna have a hard time if that's what you're kind of doing. If you're just like, yeah, whatever. People around me don't matter. Not only do I think you have a hard time, but I think like you're not making things better. Right? You're not making things better. You're not adding anything to the people around. Like, right? You're not making the lives of the people around you better. Nor do I really think you're making your own life better necessarily. You know, but most definitely, like when you're like, I don't care about the people around me, like you're not helping anybody. You're not making their lives any better. You're making their lives worse, really. You know, and like that's just like so much like negative like energy to put out there, and just kind of like a douchey thing to do, you know. And that's kind of how I feel about that. So that's why, again, very much so, I think like Tagashi is like Yu Yu Hakusho is, we see it, right? It's clearly like a shonen, and it has like seinen elements, but I think like Yu Yu Hakusho is much more of a shonen than Hunter x Hunter is. You know, and at some point, I love to talk about like Yu Yu Hakusho and Hunter x Hunter and what things like they do, because I feel like Hunter x Hunter sort of starts off in that way to being like, you got to care about people and like friendship really matters and blah blah blah, and then it just like blows it all up, and it's like, okay, we're gonna do something different, right? When it hits like Chimera Ant stuff, Dark Continent, right? Like that stuff is there, but it's different. It's not like at the core of the narrative all the time. You know what I mean? When it comes to Hunter x Hunter, like throughout the whole thing. With Yu Yu Hakusho, that's at the core of it throughout the whole thing. Throughout the whole thing. Throughout the whole thing. You know what I mean? So like for me, I think this is probably where I'm gonna end it. But like for me, like it's very easy, like again, to say like Yu Yu Hakusho is about friendship, but it's about more than friendship, right? Like it's about the relationships that you have with people and why those things matter, and how that importance reveals itself in the lives of the characters of Yu Yu Hakusho, particularly Yusuke, and how that's a reflection of like our own lives and the fact that people matter to us, and that we always have to remember that those people matter to us, and that those people are always kind of on the forefront of our minds. Like that's not to say that, you know, you can't have time to yourself or anything like that. It's just saying that like you cannot be someone that's like, oh, everybody else doesn't matter, only me, I gotta think about me, blah blah blah. That's not like, nah. It's not very healthy, and you know, it doesn't help the people that you presume to care about. You know, you'd be like, oh, I don't care. right? So I can talk about more stuff, but I think I'm just gonna kind of end it here because like it's already an hour, and sometimes I feel like I'll go off and I'll like go off a tangent, blah blah blah. But I think generally like the sort of ideas that I kind of wanted to just kind of push through is like friendship, right? Clearly like friendship is important, but more importantly, relationships, the relationships that you have with other people are important because not only because you care about them, but because they care about you and because you affect their lives. Your existence affects how they move throughout this world, to varying degrees, right? And you see that at the beginning. When Yusuke dies, whoa. And Tagashi lays the groundwork. He's like, Yusuke, you better remember. You can't like Yusuke, you can't even die. Don't you dare die. Don't you dare die on people. Don't you dare go away for no reason at all, for some ridiculous reason. Right? Right? Yusuke leaves Keiko right through a premature death. And then he legit says, I'm going to come back in like 3 years or whatever. But I'm going to leave first and like deal with this stuff. So Yusuke is like, yo, I better come back. The last time I left, like, and like, I didn't mean to like leave for that long or leave in that way. Keiko was like a wreck. Kuwabara was a wreck. Everybody was a wreck. Everybody that cared about him was a wreck. Right. So it's like, again, the people, like, you got to care about the people that care about you. And you got to make sure that you move through this life in a way that positively affects both yourself and those people. And it's really, really crucial. And Tagashi just does it on different levels. Just different levels. It's just about care about people. Care about each other. This is something that like Yu Hakusho is all about. Okay? The stuff with Yomi, right? And to get back to very quickly with Yusuke versus Yomi, right? Yusuke is like, oh, right? Yusuke is like, oh, whatchamacallit? Right? He recognizes that he has his people that he cares about. Yomi, right, is sort of in it, and Yomi is also very reflective, right? Because Yomi is just kind of like, oh, I thought like I thought this was gonna be enough, to fight and to beat you and do all these things. But then my son called out to me and that got me up. And it's like, dude, care about people that care about you. Again, Tagashi just laying down facts. All right? Just laying down facts. Here's what it is. All right. And Sensui and like Toguro, they didn't do that. And look what happened to them. So Tagashi just, he's doing that thing. He's doing a thing. Okay. People matter. You matter, obviously. Maintain yourself, take care of yourself, do positive things for yourself, for your growth. But also make sure that those things that you do positively affect the people around you too. Because they matter and they care about you and all that stuff. And that's why like Yu Yu Hakusho is just a great anime / manga, because it pushes that idea. And I think, if you are actively sort of watching it and you're actively, taking those thoughts to heart, it's a good thing. So that's all I got to say about that. I think what I'll probably do at some point in the future is it's late. I'm gonna have some people in the stream. Just to talk about this stuff. And yeah. But I'm gonna get out of here. All right. It is like 11:20. Oh, I gotta go to sleep because I got a lot of stuff to do tomorrow. Got a lot of cleaning to do. And I'm gonna get out of here. Shout out to you, Shadi, for coming through. I'm a Black Manga Critic, y'all. Once again, thank y'all for coming through. Just talking about that Yu Yu Hakusho greatness. It's kind of focused on like Yusuke versus Yomi. how it's sort of related to Yusuke versus Toguro and Yusuke versus Sensui, and this sort of general idea that Tagashi is really just kind of laid down through the entirety of Yu Yu Hakusho, which is like, care about yourself, care about the people around you that care about you, and make sure that your growth positively affects them as well as yourself. Really important, really important. Simple idea, but really important, and Tagashi just does great work with it. All right, I'm the Black Manga Critic, y'all. Thank y'all for coming through. Maybe I'll talk about another manga at some point. I want to do a Promised Neverland discussion. I don't know when that's going to be. Sooner rather than later, though. And I want to start reacting to another manga at some point. I don't know when that's going to be. Maybe tomorrow. I don't know. I'll see. All right, I'm the Black Manga Critic. Thank y'all for coming through, and I'm out ya.